Good evening and thank you for tuning in to Black News Tonight. I'm Marc Lamont Hill. Tonight we start with the trial of Kim Potter, the former Minneapolis police officer charged with first and second degree manslaughter for shooting and killing 20-year-old Dante Wright during a routine traffic stop in Brooklyn Center. Today was the first day of jury selection in which 4 jurors were selected to hear the trial. 7 other potential jurors were dismissed in a process that could take up to a week or even more. Also today, one of Potter's attorneys said that she would testify on her own behalf. Potter shot Wright as he tried to drive away from a traffic stop on April 11, which was the same time the murder trial of Derek Chauvin for killing George Floyd was underway. A jury selection is scheduled to resume tomorrow. The trial of former Empire star Jussie Smollett continues today in Chicago. The actor is charged with felony disorderly conduct for an incident that took place in 2019. Special Prosecutor Dan Webb believes Smollett reported and staged a fake hate crime. The prosecutors called one of the lead Chicago Police Department detectives on the case to stand as their first witness. Prosecutors believe that there are facts that show Smollett staged his own hate crime. Smollett's brother, Jojo, spoke out saying the case, quote, has been incredibly painful. And now turning to COVID-19 news, Moderna CEO Stéphane Bancel predicts current vaccines will struggle against the new variant known as Omicron. He told the Financial Times in a story published today that none of the current vaccines are as effective as they have been against the Delta variant, adding that there could be a serious drop-off in efficacy. This news comes less than 24 hours after virologist and infectious disease expert Dr. Lane Rowling joined our show and said the following about vaccination against Omicron.
These vaccines will have no effect on this new mutation. It's impossible. It's improbable. And that's why I mean game-changing. We have to start all over again. We're going to have to come up with a new vaccine for this multi-mutation variant. And this is a game changer. And this is going to set our country and world back another 2-3 years, because the reality is that we have ineffective vaccine management as we speak.
Joining us now to offer his response to those statements and to discuss the issue further is BNC's Chief Medical Editor, Dr. Corey Hébert. Welcome to Black News Tonight, Doc. Based on the latest science, what did Dr. Rowling say that was correct and what did he get wrong?
Well, first of all, Black doctors, we got to stick together. I mean, I went to Morehouse, so we make sure that we elevate. But one thing we can't do at this point is to incite people to feel like that vaccines don't work. So the things that were a little bit cloudy that he said were that these vaccines, it would be impossible to work, that these vaccines would have no effect on Omicron variant. And that's just simply untrue. And the reason why is because just like every year we have a new flu vaccine, it's not because we like to, keep it and so that people just hoard it. It's because we wait till the beginning of the flu season in Australia, basically, to see if the vaccine from the last year is basically going to work, or we see what actually is going to permeate across that island, and then we make sure that we get what we need to do for the United States appropriately correct, right? So that's going to be the same thing that happens here with the COVID-19 vaccine, meaning that this is a coronavirus. Omicron is a coronavirus, so there will be some effectiveness against any coronavirus of our vaccines that we have right now. There will be some effectiveness. How effective they're going to be is going to be the $21 million question. But they are going to be effective. And we've got some data coming out of Israel in the last 2 hours that actually says that these vaccines are going to do pretty well, but that has yet to be seen. The issue is that the Omicron...
Doc, let me pause you for 1 second.
Go ahead.
Doc, let me pause you for 1 second, just for clarity's sake. You mentioned the flu as a comparison. Every year we get a new flu vaccine because there are new strands, there's new iterations of it.
Absolutely.
But it seems that we have a handle on the flu vaccine. We know what's coming and we know how to anticipate it. Do we have the same handle on the coronavirus? Because it seemed like what yesterday's Dr. Rowling was saying is that we simply don't have enough data or information to be able to give the COVID-19 vaccine 2.0, that the Omicron is foreseeable and preventable based on what we know.
Right. Well, see, this is what the virologists across the United States have been saying and across the world, and what we do here at BNC since the beginning of this thing. We recognize that the coronavirus is a coronavirus. So the vaccines against the spike protein of the coronavirus will have some effect. It's not mutating into something that's not a coronavirus. It's not like this is the measles coming from another place. It is coronavirus. It is a mutation. And that means that the vaccines that are against the coronavirus, which are the spike proteins, there are mutations, over 20 mutations on the spike protein, but that does not mean that it is impossible for the COVID-19 vaccines to work against the Omicron variant. And that's what you can't really say, because that is just an untruth. And our scientists have seen this. I've published 3 articles in the New England Journal of Medicine about this recently, and this is just the reality. We know that we cannot in any way dissuade African Americans, who are the most poorly represented group in the vaccine spreading throughout the United States and across the world. We cannot have, black people feeling like, oh, well, I guess we just, don't get the vaccines now, because we know that if you get vaccinated, you will have a decreased risk of death. That is a fact. It doesn't matter if it's Omicron, doesn't matter if it's Pyro, Sigma Tau, Epsilon, Phi Chi Psi Omega. That is the reality.
You sound like you spitting in the basement, Doc. And so, how do you interpret the CEO of Moderna saying that this is not going to be good and that he expects their vaccine to be less effective? Now, because when I hear the CEO of a major company, one of the 3 major companies here in the United States, that does scare people. Now, to be clear, Dr. Rowling yesterday didn't say that people shouldn't get vaccinated, but I'm understanding you to say that if you tell people that the vaccine is not going to be particularly effective, then it's going to implicitly dissuade people from doing it. So if we got all that down, how do you respond to the CEO of Moderna who's saying it's not going to be that good? That sounds less rosy than what you're painting potentially.
Right. Now, what I want to just be very clear about this. You said implicitly, and we'll talk about the implicit bias of things later. But what I will tell you is that this is also capitalism. And Moderna's vaccine is going to work, and it's going to, the Pfizer vaccine is going to work. But I agree with Moderna's CEO that the level of the vaccine effectiveness is going to be lower. But capitalism will make Moderna's CEO say, now we need some more money so that we can make a new vaccine. I mean, this, the public health is the 4-legged stool, and never forget this. We have public health, we have public outcry, we have politics, we have money, we have science, right? The 4 legs. And science should rule the day, but we know that politics and money sometimes rules the day more than science. And that's why we have to kind of make sure that we handle it. And public outcry, which is that 4th leg, we know outweighs everything, because right now, let's think about the optics of this. Right now, we know that the Omicron variant started in Western Europe, or we know for a fact it was before in South Africa. Before South Africa isolated it, it was in Western Europe. But what is it called now? Where we have travel bans now from. You talk about implicit bias, that's something that the optics are horrible about, because you should be banning Japan, Netherlands, all the places, Belgium, all these places in Europe that had COVID-19 Omicron variant before it actually got to South Africa. But it's now a South African issue. That's ridiculous. South Africa had some of the most exquisite surveillance. That's how we knew it was in South Africa, because they isolated it first, similar to the Spanish flu. Spanish flu a long time ago did not start in Spain. It started in other countries, and Spain happened to isolate it first, and we're honest about it. And that's why we have to be careful about how we start throwing these tropes around, because the problem becomes when black people get this stuff, we feel like we're already, behind the 8 ball with COVID-19, but we are less vaccinated in some places in Africa. So we have to step up, and we cannot have people say that the vaccines won't work when that is not the actual truth.
Dr. Corey Hébert, thank you so much for joining us on Black News Tonight. Everybody, be sure to join the conversation. We want to hear from you. Head over to BNC's Instagram and Twitter pages. Let us know how you feel. Also, visit our website, bnc.tv, and subscribe to our YouTube page to check out clips from the show.